Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me today. My name is Pia Dombkowski, and I am the VP of Sales and Business Development at Rootree. We are a Canadian company located in Hamilton, Ontario. We love being local. The fun part about us is we're actually a family business at heart, so there's a lot of joys and hiccups that go along with that, but it's a super amazing experience to be a part of a company with very amazing missions. I was about 15 when I joined the company, fresh out of high school, didn't really know what was going on in the industry, very young, but what compelled me towards this and making such a bold choice at that age was the love and the eco-responsible mission this company had to take such an analog, conventional industry and reform it into something that could be very powerful. So today, I want to share a little bit about my journey in the industry, being a young person in the industry, coming from the analog world. I think it's important that I share my journey with you. Let's talk a little bit about some of the missions that Rootree has. Environmental responsibility is definitely one of our top priorities. We put a lot of weight into that to ensure that Rootree has, in anything we do, in the products that we innovate, that there's as little as environmental impact as possible in some of the products that we innovate. Our innovation team is amazing and constantly develops products that will really go into the industry and make some bold impacts on clients and buyers. Community is a big thing for us. So actually one of the nice things that we did within our community is last summer, we took our company and we ended up planting 300 trees in the community by the Oakville Hospital, which was a super neat thing, engaged our company a little bit, and really made our company feel like everybody was working towards something and building something and creating this future that's not just packaging. It's more so a sustainable lifestyle. Family. So as I mentioned, we're a family business at heart, but I think one of the things that sets us different than a lot of other companies is the fact that we have this bold approach when it comes to our family, a dynamic approach when it comes to our business, the acceptance of people and their initiatives. Innovation is another important one. Innovation. So as I mentioned, we have a really amazing innovation team. Some of the new innovations that were coming out more are on the sustainable front, sustainable, recyclable, compostable. So it's super important that we know this industry is not perfect. And I think with our amazing minds that we have, we can truly make it into something that it can be. And then finally, transparent communication. Transparent communication should really be on the top for us. I think it's one of the things that we really want to emphasize when we talk about anything that we do within the plastic world. Transparent communication, it's not easy to find sustainable choices. And I think when you have transparent communication and you're trying to innovate a product, it can be challenging. So talking to your clients, getting them aware of what's going on is super important in this industry. So at heart, we are a family business, which has a love for nutrition. But really, in reality, we're manufacturers of flexible packaging. But our approach is a little bit more unique in the sense that we take our love for nutrition and we bring it in the forefront of packaging, which you would never associate packaging with something more sustainable. And I think that's really our mission, to reform today's industry into something that it should be. Every single time I watch that video, I feel like I was 15 again. It gives me the feeling of hope that there's companies out there like this that truly want to change the industry, truly want to reform it. And I think at the end of the day, all packaging manufacturers have a sole purpose, and that's to sell. We're all here to sell. But the unique approach that Rootree takes is a little bit different in the sense that we really want to motivate. We really want to inspire change in the marketplace. This industry is massive. Is it perfect? No, absolutely not. Are we perfect? Absolutely not. But can we bring our innovation to the forefront to inspire change and make it something that it should be? So a little bit more about Rootree. How we got into the industry was about 50% word of mouth. So as we started developing a clientele, listening to what they needed, that word of mouth spread. And I think probably a little bit more than 50% now. It takes a big chunk of that. The next thing is trade shows, and I definitely have to give my thanks to CHFA because CHFA was one of the first trade shows that we ended up attending. And it's thanks to the CHFA that we have some of the clientele that we have. And there's an amazing set of entrepreneurs here that attend the CHFA every year, some of the new businesses that really want to partake in the sustainable front. So trade shows is definitely up there. 20% online, so we really developed our web presence in the last few years. And I think 10% urgently last resort should probably be a little bit more or higher on the list. We get a lot of last minute calls, being that we're in the digital space. The technology really allows for faster speed to market, shorter runs, again, tying in that sustainable focus. So 10% I think is more like 15 or 20% now. The industry breakdown. So I mean, look at that. A lot of what Rootree does, we focus on health and organics. So when I talk about organics, I really want to emphasize the focus on value add companies that are in a space that it's not just coffee beans, it's coffee beans that are ethically sourced, they have a very sustainable focus, they're picked, and they have a story behind what they do. And I think Rootree as a company really wants to take their brand initiatives and bring it on the forefront and allow their packaging not just to be packaging, but a way to communicate with their clients. So 90% health and organics, and the rest would be pharma and miscellaneous apparel clothing. So let's dive in a little bit more to flexible packaging. The purpose of flexible packaging. I get a lot of questions once in a while that says, why flexible packaging? Why not rigid packaging? Well, number one, flexible packaging nowadays has been constructed in such a way that allows you so much more than some of the rigid packaging that was designed back in the day. Number one, the purpose of flexible packaging is barrier properties. Especially being that our space is 90% food and health and organic, a lot of people need the barrier in order to have shelf extension on the market, in order to make sure that their product is healthy for a good number of years or a good number of months on the shelves. Brand safety is another one. And of course, last is marketing tool. I think one of the things that we really need to focus on here is that your packaging is not just a barrier tool, it's not just a shelf extension, it is a marketing tool. It is a way to communicate effectively with your customers, to allow them to understand your brand values, to allow them to understand your mission, and of course, your product as well. So I think we really need to hone in on that and take advantage of the fact that it's a marketing tool. So everything in packaging has a purpose, and packaging itself is an amazing word, and the industry is massive, but today I want to really focus on flexible packaging, okay? So flexible packaging not only prolongs the shelf life, but it also allows for a little bit less damage in its logistical life cycle as well. In flexible packaging today, there's a lot of variety when it comes to the types of closures that you can have, whereas in rigid packaging, back in the day, you don't have all those options. So if you take a look at the possibilities that are there with flexible packaging, I think you're dealing with a segment here that can really broaden your horizons on how clients and customers pack their product. The Flexible Packaging Association in 2018 conducted a study, and one of the questions they asked the community was, which of the following types of packaging do you believe are sustainable? And 57% of the people who participated in the survey chose glass. 51% chose corrugate. So this was a unanimous survey that was conducted, and I think one thing that I want to take away, or I took away from this, was the fact that the large amount of consumers are a little bit misinformed. And I think it's our jobs as suppliers and manufacturers to educate the consumers on really the options that are out there today. And I know, speaking from experience, if I went to the store shelf and I saw a jar of pickles and I saw a bag of pickles, I would probably choose the jar. But I think when you have the knowledge of understanding that flexible packaging provides the same purpose, if not some better barriers than what you're currently getting on the shelf, you can go the flexible packaging way because there's so much more in its life cycle that makes it more sustainable. So the next slide that I want to show you is the fact that rigid packaging has 26 times the amount of carbon footprint than flexible packaging. And this is something that's super important to take away, folks. The fact that we don't really see everything in the market. We choose glass, we choose corrugate, but we don't really see that flexible packaging serves a purpose. And so that's why Rootree has optimized the printing and manufacturing process, which has really allowed us to reduce our manufacturing waste by about 75% compared to some of our competitors in the market. We have really, I think every day that we go into work, we go with a planet first mindset. And I think that's super important for companies to be able to achieve the goals on the sustainable forefront. We need to try to have waste reduction programs within our company. So then versus now, I think that topic alone is a pretty broad topic, but the concept of packaging then is very conventional, very analog, whereas today we bring in the idea of different technologies, the idea of different materials that really allow us to break through from what was then and bring it to the modern time of where we are now. People want to communicate their message effectively. People want good barriers, and people want easier options. They don't want to have to deal with all this plastic mess. They want something that's eco-friendly. They want something that's easy to use, and they want something where they can get their message across. So this is a simple example on showing how packaging was then versus now. And I use the word rigid because it was rigid back then. Rigid not just in the sense that we were actually dealing with packaging that was rigid, but rigid in the thought of the mindset. The mindset was very rigid back then. And today we have all these converters and manufacturers that are on the forefront of something that is amazing, that we can really lead this industry, and not just flexible, but a completely different segment of what packaging should be. And that's where, in a few slides, I'm going to talk a little bit about more sustainable options that can really help flexible packaging be what it should be. So this is another example of plastics and what it was back then. There's less flexibility, and even today, some of the conventional processes, there's less flexibility. You have to wait longer lead times, there's a larger carbon footprint. So that's just the picture on the left of the cargo. But today, we've got local options. We've got more sustainable options. We've got technologies that allow us to bring packaging to life, really. So we get into this concept of, is plastic bad? Is it bad? Or is it that we need to take technologies and sciences and bring them together to make plastic what it should be? Is it bad? Or is it the concept of it's a necessary evil until we can really reform it to what it should be? So I think as manufacturers, as clients, as brand owners, it's really important to try to make choices within our companies that from the pre-life cycle of your product all the way to the post-consumer, you have a mindset that it's not that it's bad, but what can I do to make it better? Or what can I do to eliminate the waste that I create along the way? Because the truth of the matter is, we only ever see what we want to see. So we really only see the tip of the iceberg. We only see the tangible packaging. We only ever see everything that we walk by in our houses or down the street or in Starbucks when we go pick up our coffees. We don't ever see what's behind the scenes. And I think if we open up our awareness to what is behind the scenes, what happens in manufacturing, how much waste is really produced in manufacturing, it will allow us, not just as manufacturers, but brand owners, to realize that we can truly make a positive difference by choosing different materials, different technologies. So I think, starting off this presentation, it's not that it's dive into plastics. I think it's more so open your awareness to what plastics can be if we all work together, because it's not simple for just one company. So here's a nice little fact about plastics. There are currently 6.9 billion tons of plastic waste in circulation, and 91% of it never will make it to a recycling bin. That is an amazing fact. And if you really hone in on that, I think now, this was actually conducted in 2019, but I mean, we're just a few months. Think about how much plastic is produced every day that we really don't pay attention to. I think there was a fact that I was actually reading the other day that in the UK alone, toothbrushes, I mean, we change our toothbrush every 3 months, right? So if in the UK alone, they change their toothbrush every 3 months, a fact that I was reading about 264 million toothbrushes annually get thrown out. I think that's crazy, but we don't really think about it. So if you think about these things, if you think about the choices that we can make, I truly think that companies like yours and companies like Rootree can assist in making a positive decision when it comes to plastic choices. So what can we do about it? Well, the concept of choices. The choices that we have in the materials that we choose, the choices that we have in the print technologies that we use, the choices that we have individually, corporately. If we can bring brand awareness to just the choices alone, I think it will really allow our brands to flourish. So some of the corporate choices that we can make for waste reduction potentially is within our company, involving the company in garbage cleanups or eliminating styrofoam cups. That is a big thing, eliminating styrofoam cups. Anything that you can do on the sustainable forefront, it's a mindset. And I think if you can involve your companies and bring your values from a management level down all the way through the community of your company, you can really hone in on the sustainable forefront of your company. I think sustainable is not something people think about because it's very easy to take the easier approach. But I'll tell you from experience that within my journey of flexible packaging, it's actually easier to take the sustainable approach. Of course, the infrastructure sometimes doesn't allow it. Of course, there's not many brand owners out there that really see eye to eye, but people thrive off of sustainability. And if we can get that message across, I think it can really blow up. So one of the reasons why Rootree is where it is today and some of our missions and goals is because we listen to the trends. And the trends say that sustainability is taking more of a central role in the packaging industry. Sustainability, not just compostable, maybe it's recyclable, but anything sustainable, it is taking a more central role. Rigid packaging is turning in more flexible. Here's another study that was conducted from the Flexible Packaging Association. One of the questions that was posed was thinking about the products you buy, how important is it to you that your product is packaged in recyclable? It ensures less packaging waste, ensures less product waste, is made from recycling content. So all these questions that were posed, and it shows and proves that 91% of people who participated in the survey chose that it should be recyclable product. And this survey alone just proves that there's an immense amount of population that not just the people who did this survey, but people want that. People want a sustainable approach. People want sustainable packaging. It may not be easy today, but it will definitely get easier in the future the more the demand is there. Another survey that was conducted was, when assessing packaging, which 3 attributes do you consider most important to your brand? So in 2018, one of the first one was reduce costs. The second one was physically protects the product. And today we're dealing with packaging that can truly do that. Some of the sustainable options, of course, you're dealing with more compostable films. Reduce costs, absolutely. Recyclable films, absolutely. I can get you reduced costs. But when you talk about really protecting the product, flexible packaging has that ability. So I think choosing flexible packaging over rigid packaging, number 1 is the first step. And number 2 step is trying to find those more sustainable materials that will help you take your now flexible packaging to more of a sustainable flexible packaging and constantly innovate to get something that the industry really wants. I want to share a case study that was conducted by Patagonia. So Patagonia, for those of you who may not know, is a clothing company for some outdoor wear. And they did a case study for a waste reduction program within their company. So they were packaging their clothing in these poly bags. And what ended up happening was they made a choice to say, okay, I don't want to use plastic anymore, let me reduce it. So they ended up taking their product out and just using a tie to enclose their clothes with. So the picture on the left essentially shows that they're all unbagged products, just tied with a simple tie to make sure the clothes don't fall out or whatnot. And that's what happened through the DC packing system. So essentially there was clothes kind of tumbling everywhere through their picking system. And it showed in the picture in the middle that 42.5% of the products fell out by the time that they were received at the packing station. At the end, 30% showed visible signs of damage and the dirt by the time they reached the packaging station. So I guess this goes back to the concept of plastic being a necessary evil. So is plastic bad? No. But how can we make it better? So in this case, Patagonia needed the plastic to protect the product. But now what if Patagonia used compostable or used purely recyclable, number 2 recyclable films? So what they ended up doing was they ended up going back to using plastic packaging, but they ended up folding their clothes in half to reduce the amount in half of plastic that they were using, which is amazing. It's one step forward to where they need to be. Now tie that into compostable films, tie that in to more sustainable, eco-friendly films. And I think Patagonia's brand alone brings awareness to the industry of what can truly happen, how companies can make a difference. So there is solutions to waste reduction. There are solutions, and some of the solutions that I want to talk to you about are recyclable and compostable options. And I'm going to go through some of the controversies that go with compostable as well. But as you can see, companies have a drive to innovate. Companies are there on the forefront of making sustainable choices. And I think all we need to do as brand owners and manufacturers is bring awareness to some of the alternative packaging options that are out there. So this was a poll that was conducted actually in Toronto. They have a ban of banning single-use plastics for 2021 ongoing. And 56% supported the ban, 25% somewhat supported the ban, and the rest who entered in the poll were kind of on the fence. And this is where we come in, to educate them about how single-serve plastics they're completely different. So I want to talk about food packaging now, and how food packaging is completely different than single-serve plastic. We have engineered our food packaging to something that is not as simple as recycling single-serve plastics. So Rootree has very similar objectives when it comes to eliminating single-serve plastics, but on the food side. Because when we talk about it on the food side, we're dealing with highly engineered plastics. We're dealing with flexible packaging, stand-up pouches, 3-side seal pouches that have multi-layer laminates. And this is a good example on what our world looks like. So if you take a look at the picture on the far most left, underneath single layer, those are your single layer plastics. And I think one thing we want to take away from this is the fact that Rootree lives in this world of everything around that single layer. So as you can imagine, it's super difficult to recycle because you've got a polypropylene, which is number 5, you've got a PET, and you've got a PE. So all those different resins, when they come together for the purpose of creating barrier properties and print layers and seal-in webs, they are difficult to be recycled. So we do not live in an easy industry. We have to constantly innovate, and if we want to be on the sustainable forefront, I think Rootree's mission alone is super difficult, but we're trying to find more compostable and sustainable options that will still allow you to have the same barriers and to still have the same sealing properties and to still get your marketing message across. So let's talk about some of the sustainable initiatives that Rootree has. Rootree developed a flexible pouch that is code number 2 recyclable, which we are very excited about. This is a mono-layer polymer pouch. What that means is it's made of a single resin, and it's blue bin friendly. So pouches like this would provide something like a low to medium barrier, not your highest barrier. It's a sustainable initiative, but because it's a mono-layer polymer, when you use a polyethylene by nature doesn't provide the highest barrier on the market shelf. If you're going for a higher barrier, definitely we have options for that, but we want to cater something that is going to be, our recyclable product is more so for products that we want to get on the shelf fast, consumers want them in the consumer's hands right away, or brand owners want them in the consumer's hands right away. So typically when a buyer orders from Rootree and chooses our recyclable product, they're not wanting it on the shelf for a long time. They're not asking their shelf life of the product to be 2 years. They're asking for it to go quickly so that the consumer can get it as fresh as possible. So our recyclable film, the nice thing about it is that it's good for liquids, hot filling, cold filling. It's good for a variety of different snack food products. It works with a valve on it for coffee. So we've got some really unique applications when it comes to our recyclable film. Hot topic, compostable. So compostable is something that we really push for, and as you may have noticed in the video, by 2021, our mission is to have a lot of what we do compostable and recyclable. Compostable is really a hot topic in the industry. And I'm gonna speak to that a little bit down the line when it comes to the options between biodegradable and compostable. It's a really nice topic. I always enjoy talking about that one. So we offer a compostable film that is made out of non-GMO starches and wood pulp cellulose. And I want to show you this statistic here. So when, again, by the Flexible Packaging Association, a study was conducted, and the question that was asked was, how often do you do each of the following? Pay more for products in sustainable packaging, actively seek out products in sustainable packaging, promote the benefits of sustainable packaging to others, check packaging labels for sustainability information. And one thing I want to point out here, when this survey was conducted, was the age. So if you take a look at the survey, there's different colors that correlate with the age. So 65 and plus was, I think, a little bit less on the care scale. The 55 to 64 was a little bit more. 45 to 54 was a little bit more. And I'm going to skip 35 to 44, but if we go to 18 and 34, I think this is the millennial bracket. And I think this is something that we really need to hone in on as millennials. I think I would consider myself as a millennial. And I have this active drive to want to do something more sustainable and more eco-responsible. And when companies out there are doing something with that mission, I am compelled to go to the market shelf, pick the bag up, and look twice at it. I don't just drop it the first time I pick it up. So when we take a look at that, there is this active drive. Millennial is getting bigger. And the concept of millennials is that these are the people that are going to drive the industry forward. So 32%, 36%, 37%, 37%, the rest of the numbers don't really matter. Because really this analog type industry is becoming fresh again. It's becoming fresh and new again because people are there to innovate and to inspire change and to motivate others. And I think the entrepreneurs that are in today's market, the people who, as manufacturers, we all cater to, are these brand owners with fresh young minds that are trying to launch a product for the first time or have this amazing, unique idea. They want to get their message across, but let's bring sustainability into the picture because truly that's what millennials want. So let's get back to some of our compostable innovations. So our home compostable film, as I mentioned, is made out of a non-GMO starch and a wood pulp cellulose. We are coming out with some really unique initiatives in the near future, which is a secret. I'm not going to expose everything, but the nice thing about our film is that it's home compostable, and that's something I really want to emphasize here. Rootree, our mandate is that we typically don't touch anything certified only industrial compostable. We really want to hone in on the home compostability side of it, because being that it's home compostable, inevitably it will be industrial compostable. So the nice thing about our film is that when it composts in a very natural way. There's no microplastics that you ever have to be worried about. There are, it's important that when Rootree chooses a material, it is very eco-responsible. There's no shortcuts with the materials that we choose. So of course, innovation, it's not easy. It takes time. And that's why when launching products, sometimes they take longer than normal. The industry is hungry for these sustainable solutions, but sometimes they do take longer than normal. And just recently, we launched an amazing craft paper compostable solution where companies are thriving for more eco-friendly solutions. So we have now this craft paper compostable solution, which is really unique. So our valves, so for people who are doing coffee, in the coffee industry, they're home compostable, which is amazing. They're verified. All the inks and the films are home compostable certified. There's no microplastics, as I mentioned. And we do also have a compostable film with a metallized barrier, which is essentially what it is. It's atom particles of aluminum, which is inert, so it goes back into the environment the same way it came. And we have pouches, as you know, in the food industry, people need zippers on their pouches for resealability. So the zippers are industrial compostable, and we're actively working to find a solution that will be home compostable in the future. But being that it's a little bit thicker, the material is certified industrial compostable. So what does compost need to break down? Good question. Compost needs heat, microbes, and bacteria to break down. Once it comes into contact with these things, the breakdown process will happen very naturally. I get questions a lot on the phone or sales calls, and they say, well, will my packaging degrade prematurely? It's on the store shelf. If it's, is a little bit hot, or if there's a minor climate fluctuation. Absolutely not. These three factors need to come into play all together at a certain level in order for the degradation process to start. And the degradation process is very natural. Like I mentioned, there's no microplastics that you ever have to be concerned about, because when I talk about microplastic, that's a big topic of its own. So I'm not going to get into it too much, but the problem with microplastics that people don't realize is there's that concept of biodegradation. And microplastics are something that can happen if your material is derived from different plastics, that essentially what they do is when they break down into million pieces of microplastics, which is essentially worse for the environment. So when Rootree tries to bring a new sustainable innovation to the forefront of the industry, it's important that we have all our bells and whistles in order, because we don't take shortcuts. We want to make sure that our industry is very aware of what we offer, and we educate our brand owners that there are sustainable solutions out here, and you are making the right choice, not just a choice that is greenwashed, or not just a choice that's another biodegradable product. You're making a truly sustainable choice. Now I want to talk about the difference between biodegradable and compostable. So this is a hot topic of its own. I get a lot of calls that say, I'm looking for biodegradable plastic. Oh my goodness, that is a sentence. So that's a double negative, folks. Biodegradable plastic just doesn't work. Or I'm looking for biodegradable packaging. Biodegradable, the difference between biodegradable is the fact that there's no time parameters associated with the word biodegradable. There's no regulations when it comes to biodegradation. When it comes to compostable, you have this timestamp on it. So the timestamp for our films is typically 9 to 12 months if the conditions are present. Biodegradation, I mean, the chair you're sitting on will biodegrade. This will biodegrade, my computer will biodegrade, everything biodegrades. But compostability is something unique within itself, and the fact that it's regulated really puts compostable films a little bit more on the sustainable forefront. So when people ask for biodegradable films, it's important to understand that we are educating them the right way. And we're not just selling them biodegradable film, we are selling them something that is truly going to make a difference and compost, not just biodegrade. So this talks a little bit more, if any of you folks want to take a picture, this has some really unique facts about the difference between biodegradable and compostable. Challenges, I love this word. So innovation doesn't come without challenges. There are many challenges that we need to consider when we're trying to innovate or launch a new product into the industry. So there's this concept of, where does this all really go? Well, we all know that a lot of the things that we throw into the blue bin when we give ourselves a pat on the back that, hey, we're doing something good for the environment, well, it truly doesn't get recycled. But if we can have these sustainable initiatives and do something about it by offering truly recyclable products or truly compostable products, I think the industry will realize that there's this problem and create the infrastructure to help us as manufacturers and brand owners in assisting us in recycling these. I want to recall a experience that I had at one of the local recycling plants to me. So I ended up having this amazing opportunity to visit a recycling plant very close to me. And they showed me the life cycle within the recycling plant of a plastic bag. And they showed me that this stand-up pouch, which was code number 2, was put into their recycling facility. And it was then sorted, because of how light it was then sorted into the fiber and paper waste. But it's plastic. So what ends up happening in recycling plants when they don't have the means to actually recycle it properly is it ends up going into paper and fiber waste and contaminating that recycling stream. So the infrastructure and the recycling facilities, not all of them, but some of them, do not have the means to recycle plastics properly. And so a lot of them end up just typically going into the landfill. So I think what we need to focus on is, if we continuously make these choices, then the infrastructure will start getting the idea, the bigger picture here about how this industry is changing, so we truly just need to change with it. When we talk about compostable, where does it go? I get this question a lot. Can our bags be put in the green bin? Very good question. Rootree doesn't take shortcuts. The infrastructure right now is not there for you to throw our compostable bag into the green bin, because what typically ends up happening is the guy who picks up your green bin on your curbside will say, what's this? I've got plastic in my bin. They won't know how to tell the difference between a compostable bag and a plastic bag, because this is very new for them. It's a very new concept. So we can either take one approach, which is keep putting it in there until they get frustrated and the infrastructure changes, or we can allow the infrastructure to change naturally without being a pest to it. And so then in the future, the way Rootree sees it is potentially the infrastructure will have a different bin for organic compost matter, for compostable packaging, so that they can break down easier. So yes, the compostable packaging, if it ends up in the industrial compost site, it will break down, definitely. The parameters are much higher, they're much more controlled. But do we want it thrown in the green bin right now because the infrastructure is not ready? No, we don't. What we recommend is that you throw it in your home compost bin. And if you don't have a home compost bin, we actually suggest as a last resort to throw it in the regular landfill. And the reason for that is because we don't want to cheat the system right now. The infrastructure is not at the level as we are right now. There's this new innovation that's come to life, but we don't want to throw it in your green bin and make people frustrated and not like their jobs anymore. We want to allow this change to happen naturally, and it definitely will. So if you don't have a home compost bin, what we tell our clients is if you throw it in the regular waste stream, it's not going to contaminate anything. The compost will definitely happen. It just won't take 9 to 12 months. It will take a lot more time because even in the landfill, there are conditions present. They're just not as extreme. So our mission is that wherever our bags end up, our compostable side, they will break down anywhere there are. Of course, that's not being said, let's throw our bags in the ditch now. Let's make positive choices, but our mission is that anywhere our compostable bag ends up, it will break down. I want to get into some of the fun, exciting things with the technology that backs us and allows us to really push this forward, which is digital printing. So digital printing, the partner that we work for with that is HP, which you may have seen in the video that we watched. HP has very similar sustainable initiatives. And one of the initiatives that they have is their carbon footprint waste reduction program. So being a partner with HP really helps us to focus in on how we as a company want to take this technology and bring our science and innovation team together and make it something that will really blow this industry out of the water. So some of the fringe benefits of digital printing is that with the technology of HP, there is amazing consumer engagement. We have personalization and innovation that we bring to the table. We can communicate easily, very effectively, and we've got this sustainable approach that really ties it all together. So one thing I want you to take a look at is where it says, no plates, mass customization. One thing that really allows us to be very effective in our industry is the fact that we are digital producers. And no plates in itself is an amazing phrase because there's no hard metal processes here. Whereas in conventional printing, there's these cylinders, there's these inks, there's these solvents, there's these chemicals, whereas our process is super clean. There's no hard metal processing. There's no heavy waste produced. It's a very nimble production. Here's an example of what digital can really help you do and bring to the forefront of packaging. So this was a really unique concept that we did for a company, and they were looking for a very nice shelf appeal, very quick turnaround time. So we ended up creating 20 different designs. It was 11,000 pouches that we did, where you can't really do that in conventional printing. In conventional, you have to buy 10,000 per design, and you can never get it in 2 days. So this customer was blown out of the water with the print quality. And in the future, now this customer has just recently chosen to go the compostable way. So you bring in digital, you bring in the personalization concept of it, you bring in the fast turnaround time with sustainability. And it's companies like this company that can really drive the innovation and inspire others to make the positive choices as well. And I know that I'm running probably short on time, so I'm gonna speed it up a little bit. Ization. We live in this world of ization. So we live in personalization, optimization, and customization. I think with the millennials being a driving force in some of the change that is happening in the industry today, this is what we really need to cater to the market as manufacturers. And so I think our mission is that we really want to lead the way to a greener future. We want to inspire change. We want to invoke this motivation among our brand owners, among our peers, among our colleagues in the plastic industry alone. We're not competitors. We're here to drive change. We're here to move this industry forward in a positive direction. So I think if I can have you take away one thing or two things, 3 questions that you can take away. How can we make a sustainable change, both individually and corporately? What kind of company do you want to be? And what does eco-responsible mean? So if you could take away 3 things from everything that I just talked about, it would be those 3. So as you leave here today, think about how we can make an impact. And think about as clients, brand owners, and manufacturers, what can we do to inspire people in making positive choices in flexible packaging? Thank you very much.